Documentary about Jonathan Joss. At the age of 59, the well-known Western actor Jonathan Joss tragically lost his life. Wiley. He was shot dead on Saturday during an argument with a neighbor. This shocking news follows the loss of several well-known. Het Wurzeln in de Comanche und der White Mountain Apache Nation was einen wichtig Gentil seiner Identität und seines künstlerischen Schaffens widerspiegelt. Curriculum vitae. Jonathan Joss was born December 22, 1965 in San Antonio, Texas. He had roots in the Comanche and the White Mountain Apache Nation, which is an important part of its identity and his artistic work. Acting career. Joss gave his screen debut in 1994 in the rodeo drama 8 Seconds, at the side by Luke Perry. His acting talent then led him to other important roles, including appearances in the series Dead Man's Walk and Walker, Texas Ranger. These shows cemented his reputation as a talented actor in the Western genre. Later career and fame. To a knot. The role of John Redcorn in the popular animated series King of the Hill became an indispensable part of his work. Joss took over the dubbing of the character from the second season, after the original voice actor Victor Aaron had died in a car accident. Joss spoke Redcorn to the end of the series in its 13th season, creating a lasting impression with the viewers. His artistic identity was so closely associated with this role that he had left his band, the Redcorn Band, after of this character. Tragic end. The news about Joss' death shook the entertainment industry and his fans worldwide. According to Variety, he was shot dead during a neighborhood dispute and the suspected shooter was arrested for murder. The investigations is currently underway. Jonathan Joss leaves behind a significant legacy in the world of the Western genre and dubbing. His talent and contribution to the entertainment industry will continue to be reflected in Remembered. The homophobic crime against Jonathan Joss. Introduction. The tragic death of Jonathan Joss, known as John Redcorn in King of the Hill and as Chef Ken Hotate in Parks and Recreation, not only raises questions about the circumstances, death, but also sheds light on the dark aspects of prejudice and prejudice. Violence in society. Joss was born on June 3, 2025 at the age of 59, in an exchange of fire in front of his own house. The incident. The shooting occurred on Sunday evening around 7 p.m. in Texas, after the police were alerted. Officers found Joss on the side of the road after he suffered several shots. Despite immediate life-saving measures, he was arrested on the crime scene, declared dead. The news of his violent death shocked not only its fans, but also the entire entertainment industry. Perpetrators and investigations. The suspected shooter fled in a vehicle, but was able to escape a block away from the officers. He was charged with murder, and the investigations are still ongoing. While the exact motives for the violence has not yet been fully clarified, there are indications that a potentially homophobic motive. Homophobia and violence. Homophobia, the rejection or hostility towards homosexual persons and the LGBTQ+ community, is an ongoing problem in many societies. Such prejudices can lead to a culture of discrimination and violence, as the tragic death of Jonathan Joss exemplifies. The connection between homophobia and violence has increased worldwide in recent years, and Joss's fate reminds us that no one is orientation or identity should become a victim of violence. Joss's legacy. As a talented actor, Jonathan Joss leaves behind a significant legacy his fans are left with, as a voice of relevance and diversity in the entertainment sector. Memory. His work in the series King of the Hill and Parks and Recreation has touched and shaped generations of viewers. His role. When John Redcorn, a character of Native American origin, set an important signs of the visibility and acceptance of indigenous people in the media. The violent death of Jonathan Joss is not only a loss for the entertainment industry, but also is also a harrowing example of the reality that many LGBTQ+ people confront. It is essential to raise awareness of the problems of homophobia and violence in order to promote a more tolerant and respectful society. Joss's life and career should make us all want to stand up for equality and mutual respect and to oppose prejudice and violence. Profiling analysis of the crime against Jonathan Joss by Gabriela GroupCyber of Criminal. Introduction. The tragic murder by Jonathan Joss on June 1, 2025 is a shocking event that does not only his family, but also the public and the entertainment industry. As a crime profiling expert, I have an in-depth analysis of the circumstances and possible motives of the crime. Realize this analysis is based on available information, witness reports, and psychological aspects of the perpetrator-victim relationship. Circumstances of the crime. On the evening of June 1, 2025, Jonathan Joss was shot dead in front of his residence in Texas. He was awarded several times, and despite immediate medical measures, he was shot at the scene. Declared dead. The alleged perpetrator was arrested after the crime, and was apparently someone with whom Joss has come into conflict in the past. Motives of the crime. The analysis suggests that the circumstances of the crime are unlikely to be related to homophobia but rather personal conflicts and past disputes. The following points support this hypothesis. Personal conflicts. There is evidence that the perpetrator and the victims have a history of disputes. Indications of not kept promises or past disputes could be used as motives for the violent incident. Emotional escalation, emotional factors, and interpersonal tensions could have led to the act of violence in a moment of escalation. Aggression that builds up in conflict situations can often lead to tragic witness reports. Initial witness statements suggest that there was a loud argument, which led to deeper personal problems between Joss and the perpetrator. Such verbal disputes are often harbingers. Physical violence. Lack of evidence of homophobia. So far, there is no evidence or statements that suggest a homophobic motivation for the crime. Rather, the results of the investigation indicate that it is a personal confrontation. Psychological aspects. The psychological profiles of both the victim and the perpetrator can provide valuable insights into the crime. Victim profile. Jonathan Joss was a sought-after actor with a career. His public status could make him personally relationships under pressure or potentially envy and hostility, especially from people close to him. Perpetrator profile. The alleged perpetrator, who has been involved with Jonathan Joss in the past, could have been tormented by emotional conflicts. Such perpetrators are often impulsive and tend to feel uncomfortable in emotionally charged situations. Overreacting. This constellation can pose a serious threat. Analysis of crime against Jonathan Joss shows that the circumstances and motives on the personal relationships and conflicts from the past, rather than homophobic attitudes. It is important that the investigations in this direction will be continued in order to bring the truth to light. This tragedy underlines the complexity of human relationships and the dangers that arise in the unresolved conflicts. Increased awareness of interpersonal dynamics and preventive measures for conflict resolution could help prevent similar incidents in the future. The murder of Jonathan Joss on June 1, 2025 represents a tragic event that has left the public and the entertainment industry. These profiling analysis examines the motives and circumstances of the crime based on personal conflicts, unfulfilled promises, omitted assistance, and family burdens. Circumstances of the crime. Jonathan Joss was awarded in his home in Texas when he was shot several times. He died at the scene while the alleged perpetrator was arrested. Investigations indicate that the perpetrator and Joss had a complex past. Motives of the crime. The analysis of the events shows that the motives behind the crime are of a personal nature. In particular, the following aspects come into play. Promises not kept. There are indications that there is a difference between the perpetrator and Joss had agreements or obligations that had not been complied with. This can lead to frustration, disappointment, and a sense of betrayal. The perpetrator. Failure to render assistance. It is possible that the perpetrator felt that he was in a situation, especially when Joss is in the has offered or promised help in the past, but has not. Such situations can reduce the tensions between related persons. Illness in the family environment, family difficulties, especially if disease can create considerable emotional pressure. If Joss or family members have had health problems, this could lead to intensification of conflicts. The perpetrator could be in his responsibility must have been overwhelmed, which led to a violent reaction. Personal relationships. The complexity of the relationships between Joss, the perpetrator, and other family members could also play a role. Unresolved conflicts within the family are often emotional time bombs that can end in violent conflicts. Psychological aspects. The psychological dynamics that can lead to this crime are complex. Victim profile. Jonathan Joss was a prominent actor. This status can evoke both envy and expectations that affect family life. Pollute the climate. Perpetrator profile. The perpetrator, possibly from a feeling of disappointment and overwhelmed, could be acted in an emotionally unstable state, in which personal conflicts dictated the course of action. The analysis suggests that the terrible act against Jonathan Joss was primarily caused by personal conflicts, unfulfilled promises, failure to provide assistance, and family problems. It is crucial that the investigations in these directions in order to provide a comprehensive picture of the circumstances around this case. This tragic incident underlines the importance of communication and understanding in the context of interpersonal relationships, early resolution of conflicts, and an awareness of people's emotional needs can help to similar tragedies in the future. The position of the public prosecutor's office in the Jonathan murder case. Joss. Introduction. The murder case of Jonathan Joss, who was shot and killed outside his home in Texas on June 1, 2025, has not only the public, but also the investigative authorities in a state of excitement. Offset. In this context, the public prosecutor's office has already clarified that she sees no need for a crime profile expert like me, since she continued to work independently on the clarification of the circumstances and motives of the crime. Status of the investigation. Currently, the public prosecutor's office has entered an intensive phase of investigation. The key aspects of the investigation include preservation of evidence. The authorities are concentrating on the preservation and evaluation of evidence found at the crime scene. This includes forensic analysis and witness interviews. Suspect identification. The identity of the alleged perpetrator has been, and discussions are ongoing with him and with individuals in order to determine potential motives and backgrounds. Witness interviews. The public prosecutor's office has the task of find and interview relevant witnesses in order to investigate the events before and during the crime more precisely. Assessment of the public prosecutor's office. The public prosecutor's office has stressed that it is confident that it will be able to provide the necessary information and to be able to gather evidence without external help. This is due to the fact that existing expertise. The public prosecutor's office has qualified investigators who are able to assess the psychological and criminological aspects of the case itself. Internal resources. Through access to internal databases and technologies, investigators are able to effectively participate in the investigation of the work. Setting priorities. The focus is currently on presenting the facts in a way that, as quickly as possible in order to bring charges if necessary and to case. The decision of the public prosecutor's office not to involve a crime profile expert reflects its belief in one's own investigative resources and methods. While they continues to work on solving the murder of Jonathan Joss, it remains to be seen whether what insights are gained to create a well-founded indictment. The internal implementation of investigations can lead to faster results, but it also creates room for a possible review of the methods if the evidence is not satisfactory. It is important that all those involved in the investigation parties act in a transparent and coordinated manner to bring the truth to light. Bring my intellectual property. My information is my intellectual property and results from my creative and intellectual efforts. I have the exclusive right to what the signifies creativity and originality. The information is based on a profiling analysis that does not include simple ideas, but corresponds to reality and has a high hit rate of 80%. They are based on my knowledge, my training, and new profiling methodologies. Protection of my rights. My information may be disclosed without my written consent, or a contract cannot be reproduced. This applies to any kind of use, publication, or distribution. Mention by name. When using my information with my consent must be subject to the following conditions are adhered to: a name of my person, a link to my videos. In addition, links to my affiliate offers as well as for the resale of my ebooks. Advantages of my intellectual property. Recognition. I receive recognition for my creative achievements, which strengthens my reputation in my field. Economic value. My intellectual property can be commercially by granting licenses or distributing my works. Sell. Protection against abuse. I have the opportunity to legal action against unauthorized use or reproduction of my information. Enforcement of my rights. Should I find that someone has received my information without my knowledge or without the necessary contracts, I reserve the right to make legal steps. In the past, I was robbed when my information was passed on to third parties without my consent, who then received recognition for my work. Therefore, I feel compelled to establish clear guidelines in order to ensure that my intellectual property rights are respected. Become. It is important to me to be recognized for my creative achievements and to maintain control over my information.